Thing. So greetings everybody out there. This is Leviathan, as per usual. I'm doing a little YouTube intro, I guess, even though we're live on stream right now. And we're going to go over the Necromancer Q&A that took place today, January 26th. It was about 40-ish minutes in length or so. So we're just going to go through and watch it and also give some comments as we see questions and things like that. I have already seen this, so this will be my second go through. Some of the questions were pretty basic, and some of them actually had some interesting answers. Nothing crazy was revealed, except for one thing that was kind of different from what they had already told us, so I'm kind of excited about that. But there are a couple of things at least worth talking about. So we're going to hop over here to this lovely thing. We'll get it full screen for you. I'm cutting off Travis's head. Here, I'll stick myself in the middle there. All right, let's do this.
Hey everybody! We are
Hi,
just
Brandy.
joining in live from Blizzard Campus, and my name is Brandy Camel. I'm your community manager for Diablo. To my right, I have Julian Love, our lead effects artist on Diablo.
Hi.
And then to my left, I have Travis Day, senior game designer.
How you guys doing?
And today we are here to answer your questions about the Necromancer. And we gathered a whole bunch of questions from all over the place, from our forums, internationally, from Twitter, from Facebook, all kinds of sources. And before we get started, there were a couple of very frequent questions asked that I just want to get out of the way before we get into the other things that were submitted. We won't be talking today about the launch date or pricing. Those things just aren't ready yet, and once we get to them, you guys will definitely be the first to know. But for now, that's not information we're going to be covering. So instead, we're going to kind of focus more on like gameplay things and what you can expect from the Necromancer. And before we get started, I'd like to just kind of catch up anybody who wasn't at BlizzCon or didn't kind of find out about what to expect from the Necromancer. So can you give me like the elevator pitch version of what folks can expect?
All right, so nothing too surprising there. I imagine that the last bit of info that we get will be the price point and the release date. So they're probably going to do some, I mean, she kind of talks about this later on, so I won't spoil it too much, but there probably will be some releasing of information as time goes on, like, oh, here are some of the skills we're working on, and here's like a preview of what they do, some cool videos and GIFs or GIFs or however you want to pronounce that, because they seem really into that kind of thing these days. But yeah, I don't think anyone who came into this expected that they would announce the price or the release date, or maybe there were, but at least on my side of things, I didn't think that would be a thing. So not too surprising. And I guess it's good that she got it out of the way early too, because at least people who were looking specifically for that, like, didn't have to keep spamming the chat for it. But next up is just like a recap. So if you already went to BlizzCon or you heard about BlizzCon, then you probably know most of this stuff that Julian's about to talk about.
Yeah, so Necromancer, really taking off from where the Diablo 2 Necromancer left us. He's a darkly themed pet and ranged magic class. That's kind of the basics. He's got his magic is themed around things such as the manipulation of blood and bone. They are commanders of the dead, and you can expect to have a lot of pet options.
I don't know what that says weird.
Some of the kind of big twists that we have here is that we want the pets to feel like something that's active, that you have control over. They're not passive pets that sort of run around on their own and do their own thing. The stuff that we've showed at BlizzCon and leading up to today, what we've kind of found is the class is shaping up to be something that's really fun and exciting and feels very fresh and new for Diablo, and we can't wait to finish it and get it into your hands.
For sure. In the meantime, we've got a ton of questions from you guys to answer, so let's just kind of jump right in and start answering them.
Yeah.
Our first one came from the forums. This is from Ghost. How much of the Diablo 2 Necromancer will there be in the new Diablo 3 Necromancer? Slight typo there.
Yeah, so I personally used to play a lot of Necromancer in D2, so I have a lot of fond memories. And I think a lot of the people on the team do. We really used the Diablo 2 Necromancer as sort of a jumping off point, and sort of have tried to adapt a lot of the skills that people might be familiar with and the themes and bring them into D3 in a way that makes sense. So you see a lot of familiar themes from D2, like corpse explosion, curses, golems, skeletons, skeletal archmages, things like that.
Okay, very cool. All right, our next question.
All right, so not too much to say about that. I think that's kind of obvious that they would draw on D2 to get D3 Necromancer going. Of course, the big thing here is that we're hitting a ton of nostalgia for players that are longtime fans of the series. So, we already knew that there were skills that they had brought from D2, just even in the BlizzCon demo. But yeah, so not going to spend too much time on that one. Just a pretty basic question to get things started.
Question comes from Alexander. He wants to know about a very specific ability. Is the revive ability going to be returning for the next?
This is good. Listen to this one.
Absolutely. Necromancer's Revive was one of my favorite skills from Diablo 2. It's a massive undertaking, but it is really cool and it's shaping up really well. So we definitely plan on bringing Revive forward.
Awesome.
Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, revive is what it sounds like. You literally revive a monster that's on the battlefield that you've killed. So they talk about it a lot later on, and from what it sounds like is they're actually making art assets for, they have revive, and then I think he said 5 or 6 runes for revive, and then that multiplied by the like hundreds of thousands or hundreds of enemies with the 1,000 like different looks that they have or whatever, means that you should be able to revive like any monster. And so I'm very curious what that means in terms of like if I revive a Punisher versus a skeleton, is the damage going to be modified? Like, is the damage going to come from the skill itself or the monster that you revive? There's a lot of questions that this brings up, but this could be like a really powerful skill. The first thing I thought of was if this is like, brought to the Greater Rift, then if you take a GR90 Punisher or something, you revive it to fight for you, like how is that not going to be crazy OP? Like they'll just destroy other monsters. So I'm very curious to see kind of where the damage from this comes and how they balance it and stuff like that. So very exciting on this one.
I've seen this question kind of asked a lot in different ways. How will you make sure that the Necro is different than the Witch Doctor? Both kind of have curses and minions. What direction will the Necro take? Thanks, Prodan Dimitro.
Well, yeah. So I think I talked about a little bit earlier when I said that one way is thematically, right? We've got some different themes on the Necromancer than the Witch Doctor. So blood and bone are magic themes that just haven't appeared in any other class. It's a much darker themed character overall. If you think about the Witch Doctor, there are a lot of darkly themed things, but there's also a whimsical side to the Witch Doctor, and there will not be any whimsical takes on anything in the Necro. It's going to be very serious, very gritty. Then from a gameplay standpoint, we're doing some very different things with the pets in that all of them are controllable to some degree, that you get to tell them either where to attack, what to focus on, where you want them. You get to move them around a little bit. And then, so that just feels very different compared to Witch Doctor pets, which are pretty much fire and forget. You spawn them and then they go off and do their thing and you don't really pay attention to them anymore. In that sense, they're kind of inconsequential to you as a player. And then recently we started to get into this idea of messing around with different resource models. Looking at the corpses, for instance, we have abilities that require corpses in order to function. And that's something that's very different than what the Witch Doctor uses, which is just mana. And then Essence functions in a slightly different way. And then we even have some skills that are requiring or have a blood cost associated with them now. And so all that really adds up to a very, very different play experience.
So that's cool. That's something that we were kind of pondering at BlizzCon and then kind of afterward on the podcast too, was there's this whole scope of blood being one of the major themes for the Necromancer. Would they utilize health as a resource as well? And it sounds like now some of the skills that they've developed are evolving to go with that mechanic. And they do talk about it a little bit more later on as well. So I will, like one of the things I was talking about with a friend as we were watching this, I was like, I bet there's going to be some sort of like Necromancer passive that gives you crazy life regen or something to offset the fact that you will be using your life to cast some of these spells. And I could even see that becoming like a party thing to support, you get a certain amount of life regen and maybe your party members get some too. So there's some intriguing things that could go on, but that's really cool. Just that you'll be able to, now you have essence as a resource, you have the corpses as a resource, now you have your own health as a resource. So we were actually saying like this could be the first time that vitality kind of becomes, a spender stat. It'll actually have a lot more importance than it even has right now. So intriguing.
Here's an interesting question. So this one comes from Loranis. This was also on our forums. How is it going with the work on the female character? So I assume the female version of the Necromancer.
Yeah, well, the truth is we started right away making the female character, a female version. But in order to feel good about what we were showing at BlizzCon, we had to kind of settle on just showing one. But we've been working on it all along, and she's coming along really well. And although we don't have anything to show you today, I think if you just sort of stay tuned over the next few months, that we'll have something to show you.
All right.
I thought we would see something from the female Necro today,
Here's our next
but
question. This
guess
is also
not.
a form question. How will all of the corpse-based skills on the Necromancer actually work, since critical hits usually destroy corpses? This is from Karak.
Yeah, that's a really good question. If you weren't at BlizzCon and didn't have a chance to play it, I could see why you would be worried about that. So corpses for D3 and the way Necromancers work are different than how they worked in D2. In D2, when things died, they just left a corpse. D3 has never left corpses. In fact, usually you just knock things right off the screen or disintegrate them. So we had to invent a corpse mechanic. So now whenever anyone in a game with Necromancer kills a creature, agnostic of the body of the thing, whether it flew off the screen or got disintegrated, there will be a corpse or a pile of goo that you can then use to use your corpse-related skills.
Alrighty then. So our next.
So that's nothing too new. That's something that was kind of covered at BlizzCon a little bit. But yeah, they added this sort of mechanic where on every kill that the Necromancer makes, there's a 100% chance to drop an item, which is a corpse. And that's what you can use to fuel your corpse skills, like corpse explosion, etc. They go into corpses a little bit more later on too, but nothing too groundbreaking there.
Next one, I believe this one also came from the forums from Nick. We've seen some of the bone skills from the Diablo 2 poison and bone skill tree. Will we see any of the poison skills, or will that be an aspect of the Necromancer that's removed to more clearly define them from witch doctors?
So we thought a lot about the poison skills very early on, and the easy answer would be, witch doctors have a poison, we want to push them apart, so no poison on the Necro. But there's really more to it. I think if we felt like there were some really awesome poison fantasies that we would express, we would probably make room for it. But I think the truth is that there really aren't that many cool poison ideas out there, and of the ones that there are, the witch doctor took them, right? Like shooting a poison dart, poison frogs, things like that. Those are maybe the most exciting expressions of things you can do with poison. And then adding to all of that, looking back at the original character, the poison tree really wasn't that exciting. If you think about it, if it wasn't for Poison Nova, I don't think anybody really would have built a Poison Necromancer. So I think the lesson there was, well, if we could get that Nova, that point-blank AoE gameplay into the Necromancer, then maybe we could just leave poison as a theme behind. And that's kind of where we're at right now, which is we're not really going to bring poison forward as a thematical driver for skill ideas.
Right. Okay.
So no poison. I mean, this one kind of makes sense in terms of what they've been saying all along. They want that clear delineation between this is Witch Doctor stuff, this is Necromancer stuff. Witch Doctor is super poison, therefore Necromancer will not have poison. One of the things I was discussing with one of the guys in the Blizz Pro Slack channel was if they bring back the Nova, kind of like what he was saying, if they bring back Nova and it's just like a blood Nova or a bone Nova or something like that, will that be satisfactory enough to capture the essence of what Poison Nova was? Because it seems like a lot of people are fixated on Poison Nova being that thing that they remember and love from D2. But if it's just a Nova at the end of the day that's colored differently, like is that so bad that it would like ruin it for you if it wasn't green? So I'm kind of curious on whether it sounds like they're going to do something like it. It'll just be, in one of the new themes, not poison instead. I wonder if that will be enough, or if people will be like, up in arms because they don't have Poison Nova. I don't know.
Let's see. Our next one, this one came from Twitter, at Soul Dojo. He asked, any love for melee mancers? I love the idea of being able to fight alongside my skeleton army like an undead general.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. We've actually got a lot of skills that have a very up-close and personal theme to them. We definitely want to be able to deliver on like the melee necromancers or close-range fighters. So I think y'all will be excited when you finally get your hands on it.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to that kind of gameplay. I'm definitely like an up-close and personal
Yeah, I always
Sort
play
of.
melee classes, so
Yeah, so
I
that'll
mean,
be really exciting.
I'm biased. Lots of barbarians for me.
It was cool, just because it almost reminds me of when they were talking about the early Crusader stuff. You know, that ability to play from like mid range and then be melee and have these different versatile ways to play the character. It seems like some of that's going to carry forward with the Necromancer as well. You'll have like a pet based way to play. You'll be able to do range casting with your like bone spear and things like that, curses, etc., and then up close and personal and melee combat. So it sounds like Necromancer will actually be one of the more diverse characters because you'll kind of encompass a lot of what the other characters are more like they do one or the other. So that's cool.
All right. Our next one comes from Misty Freak. Will we see Iron Maiden in abilities and the Thorns mechanic on this class?
So there's no plans to bring Iron Maiden forward. I know whenever we would talk internally about the Necromancer and the curses and skills he used to have, Iron Maiden came up a lot. I even brought it up a lot. But contextually, that was through the lens of, yeah, I would summon my Blood Golem, and then I'd Iron Maiden everything, and I was invincible, which was awesome. But we don't want to sort of bring that particular style of gameplay back. And then separately, when talking about the curses that we're developing, or like, did we want to bring Iron Maiden or not, that just had a lot to do with like, well, what's the actual gameplay of Iron Maiden? Like, is Thorns fun? Is the gameplay of like casting a curse and then standing around waiting for things to punch you exciting? And we just decided there's cooler things we could do. And the curses are a lot more unique than, or distinct from each other than they were previously. And we just didn't feel there was a good place for that one.
All right.
So no Thorns Necromancer. This was something that Nineball was talking about. I don't know if we discussed it on an episode. It might have been, or it could have been one of our like many offline conversations. But yeah, that's one of the things that you could do back in the day, D2 style. But it doesn't seem like it'll be coming forward, which is kind of interesting, just because it would be yet another playstyle that they could explore, especially with Thorns being such a revamped thing. But maybe they want to keep it more like here it is as a Crusader and potentially Barbarian thing. There's the Barbarian Thorn stuff that happens as well. But just kind of surprising that they wouldn't give it as a potential option for Necromancers, or even like a way to buff, because it could be cool, right? If there actually was like a Necromancer thing that buffed Thorns damage, where now a Lawn Bombardment or Invoker's Crusader wants to do a 2-man group with a Necro so they can get their Thorns boosted even more. Like, that'd be crazy, but I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's something that'll happen, unfortunately.
Our next one. Here's a good question. How many active summons can a Necro have? Thanks, Drap, for the question.
As many as Julian and the Tech Art team will allow me to have.
Yeah, look, we get into performance issues, like both on, in the engine on your computer but actually more so on the server. Once you get up to, when you think about 4 Necromancers on screen, if they all had 50 summons, there are going to be problems with that. So right now we don't have a defined number as to what we think they'll end up with. And as we mess with the skills, the numbers of them go up and down as we try things out. Like, hey, revive, what's it like with 50? That was fun, and it also got a little boring because there really wasn't room for you to do anything. So we turned it down, and this is sort of a normal thing that we do, is go back and forth between raising and lowering and playing with like maybe 7 skeletons, maybe 12 revives, or maybe sort of play around with it like that until over time we arrive at what will be final numbers. But there isn't a plan, for instance, to pick a number and make them hit it. Yeah, it's more like what's fun, what feels good.
All right.
Someone will have to let me know how many pets, like at max, witch doctors can have currently, because my guess would be whatever that number is would be a number that could be the one that gets picked for Necromancers. It's gonna be interesting to see how many pets they allow. Like, if you were to pick every pet skill that the Necromancer will have, like, we already know there's raised skeleton, there's gonna be some golems, there's gonna be potentially like legendary items that also give you access to other pets, and then revive as well too. And it sounds like we might be able to revive more than one at a time. So maybe there's like a short cooldown on it and they only last for a certain duration. Like, I mean, we don't know the details of any of this yet, but I guess we'll have to see my only like inkling of what the potential could be would be just on how many pets you see for witch doctors right now, because whatever is in there, uh, you assume isn't breaking the game. So maybe they would aim for that number as well.
Our next one. What are the weapon types the Necromancer will be able to wield?
Oh,
Question from our NPC.
when they ask questions that we
so
already know
Necro's
the answer
gonna
to.
have similar weapons to, I think, most of our ranged casters. They can use basically everything that isn't class specific or a bow or crossbow. Also, they're going to have their own class weapons and their own.
By the way, that's kind of weird because wizards and witch doctors can use bows. Like one of the things that wizards do with the support wizard is use a Yang's recurve. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. That maybe he's misspeaking there, or maybe they're making that direct difference for the necromancer.
Class offhands, and we're developing a suite of scythes for them presently. So they'll have the stuff you're used to, but then with scythes because they're awesome.
Very cool. Looking forward to that. I have an affinity for scythes. I don't know why. Maybe my avatar has something to do with that.
I have no idea.
So, next question. Will the Necromancer have golems like its predecessor?
Yeah, it sure will. We've actually been working on the golems, trying to figure out which ones we like, what are the themes we want to use. Julian actually showed off one that was a work in progress at BlizzCon.
Yeah, we already knew
Blood
this.
Golem, because he's freaking cool, so we're going to bring him forward. And we're actually trying to make up a bunch of new golem types that we think match D3's thematic for the class. As opposed to the D2 ones. So we're definitely not bringing forward all the golems that people are used to, but we hope you're excited with the ones that they do have.
All right. I think I actually have a follow-up question. Yep, I sure do.
Oh.
This one came from one of our fans in Korea. How many types of golems can we use? Is that something we can chat about briefly?
I don't know. Currently,
Currently.
we have 3 worked out
All right.
with room for 1 or 2 more. So between 4 and 5 when it's all done.
All right. So TBD, but that's the general.
Yeah, it will be 4 or 5.
Okay, sounds good.
4 or 5. Now I'm not the necromancer expert, but as far as I can remember from D2, there was what, like blood golem, clay golem, iron golem. Were there others too? So maybe we'll get like a new one, a bone golem or something. I don't know. Sounds about right though. I'm imagining it's just like the raised golem skill, and then a bunch of runes that let you get like an iron or a blood or whatever.
Next question from the forums. Elmo asks, can we expect to see the Necromancer doing damage to itself, or doing damage itself, not to itself? And is most of the damage it deals coming from its pets?
We're really putting a lot of work into trying to make sure we have a lot of different gameplay types captured in the Necromancer. You can certainly build a Necro that is just like you're all about your pets. You just have pets galore. Your pets are killing everything, and you're just like, kill that, and they kill it. We also want to make sure there's just a lot of other gameplay styles. If you just want to use a lot of direct damage spells, you can do that. Like Julian had mentioned earlier, like trying to capture the Nova gameplay and bringing that forward, or the melee range, close range combat character. So if you want your pets to kill all the things, your pets will kill all the things, and if you want to do it yourself, you can do it yourself.
Very cool. So chances are there will be some variety. So.
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
The plan is
Generic
that there's
question
much
gets a
Alright.
generic answer.
Our next question comes from Super Mage. Is there any chance of a two-handed scythe happening?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
We will have 2 hand slices. Yeah, I mean, I think one of our awesome concept art pieces that's actually the background of the questions, he's got a scythe, and we sort of took the scythe and we're like, yeah, scythes are awesome, let's do a scythe. And as soon as we did a scythe, we're like, well, you gotta have a 2-handed scythe, because that's the iconic, like, Grim Reaper, death, giant scythe. Like, clearly that has to exist.
Natural sense of progression.
Yeah. Bigger things. It's Diablo.
Yep.
That's good to know. So it'll be similar to the flails of the Crusader. You have your one-handed flails or two-handed flails, both class items. Because the iconography that we've seen so far for Necro has just been like the one-handed flail and, a shield, a bone shield or something. So interesting that they'll have two-handers. I could definitely work for, some of the more like big nuke skills or whatever. Want them to hit harder. I imagine a lot of the pet stuff will probably be more one-handed based since you're going to want that attack speed. So that's cool.
All right. This one comes from OG Corey. So just curious, will the Necromancer's minions be temporary, or will they last like the Witch Doctor's dogs and Gargantuan?
Yeah. Well, both. We are going to have a variety of pets for you to choose from that will operate in different ways. Some of them will be permanent, and some of them will be very, temporal or temporary, maybe only lasting for a short period of time. And in through runes, we'll probably have some options to, play around with some of those options, like maybe take some ones that are short and make them longer, or make them more powerful and shorter, and goof around with it. That idea.
Yeah. There was a follow-up to this one. Will we be getting skeletal archers and mages?
Yes, absolutely. Skeletal mages and archers. We've actually been toying around with like the composition of your army and what kinds of things it would be cool to have. Mages and archers have come up a lot. It's very likely they will make a showing.
Yeah, we did have mages in the BlizzCon build. They were like,
yeah, we did.
They were part of.
I forgot we did because we did have them. We have sort of redefined their role a bit from what they were in the BlizzCon build. They're a lot cooler now, and they'll be even cooler before you guys see them again.
All right, can't wait to see that.
Me too.
Don't even need to stop too long for this one, but it's kind of a bummer. I mean, I guess like there has to be some coverage of stuff that we already knew just in case, but like we already knew that too, right? So crazy. All right, hopefully new content and new questions.
Right. All right, our next question comes from White Noise. Will I be able to build a necromancer around blood abilities, or will it mostly only be viable to rely on minions? We sort of answered this a little bit earlier in terms of minions.
I mean, blood is certainly one of the strong themes. When we first started talking about like what were the cool things that we liked about D2 necromancers and what did we want to bring forward, Blood Golem was one of the first things that came up all the time, and we started talking about that. Like, yeah, Blood Golem was awesome, and it was like, man, that's the only blood skill they had. But blood magic, there's like this really strong thematic and fantasy behind that, and like using your own blood as like a means to channel magic. And we've started exploring and trying to flesh that out more, but that is certainly like a strong theme of the new Necromancer for Diablo 3.
All right. Let's see. Here's a frequently asked question as well. I saw this all on the forums.
Okay, this one there was a previous answer to, but
Necromancers start with 4 sets like the other classes have now from Crymon.
Yes.
What?
That's exactly the plan. Not entirely sure what they're going to do yet, but he's going to have 4 of them, and we'll figure it out before then.
What?
Work in progress.
Yeah.
Work in progress for sure.
Previously, they said it was going to start with 2. Everything that we heard at BlizzCon was that there'd be 2 sets that the Necromancer would release with, and then like they would see what was being done with the Necromancer as far as like people playing it, builds that were popular, and then they would come out with the next set and the next set after that to kind of revolve around some playstyles that people were maybe liking but didn't have set support. So that's huge news because that means they're doubling down, obviously, 4 instead of 2, on their efforts as far as item design goes. But that's a major change. That's kind of crazy. So there's going to be 4 sets at release instead of 2. That's a lot of options out the gate. I'll be curious to see just how like specific or generic they are, because I mean, like obviously there's going to be something with pets, right? Maybe a corpse explosion one, but then I guess the others, it's going to be them kind of determining based on the skills and the synergy that they see, this is the set that they would put together. But I really do wonder how much of that will either get changed or be reflected in like what the community comes up with once they see all the skills and the possible things you can do with them. Maybe they'll be reflected in lawn sets or something like that. But yeah, that was shocking for me. That was probably the biggest thing I took away from this thing. 4 sets.
Our next one. Does the Necro have things that take his HP away in order to do damage from Crash Course?
Yeah, that is the plan, in fact. We didn't show anything like that at BlizzCon yet, and we don't have obviously anything to show today, but we started to mess around with that when we got back to the offices, and it's turned into quite a thing. It kind of reinforces an entire play style, so to speak, and opened up the avenue for new skill ideas that we really didn't have before. So, yeah, expect to see that show up in a big way.
Very cool. I look forward to checking that out and giving it a try.
I actually missed this question the first time I watched this because I was so excited about the 4 sets thing, and I kind of missed it again, so I'm going to back it up real quick. just to see what the actual question was. Does the Necro have things that take its HP away to do damage? Okay, yeah. That's what I thought it was. So that's cool, just because now, of course, you'll have, like we were mentioning previously, blood as a resource, or your life, your health pool as a resource. And hopefully that also means there'll be some interaction with other runes and skills and things that help you get it back. Because last thing you want to do is just be like sitting there spamming one of your skills and then like you kill the monster, but you're also dead too. It's like, congrats on your Greater Rift clear, except you're dead. Your deeds will be remembered.
And we don't have obviously anything to show today, but we started to mess around with that when we.
Oh, I backed it up a little bit, so the
quite
same
a
answer.
thing. It kind of reinforces an entire play style, so to speak, and opened up the avenue for new skill ideas that we really didn't have before. So, yeah, expect to see that show up in a big way.
That should definitely be really cool, though.
Cool. I look forward to checking that out. And
The
doing it.
importance of vitality.
Oh, did I go to the right one?
I don't know.
Oh, this is okay. I don't want to skip any questions for sure. Here's our next one. Will they have much in the way of burst damage, or is dot-based damage all they will dish out from Doomlock?
Currently there's nothing that is damage over time. I mean, barring pets, if you call pets damage over time, because they kind of are. But there's no like damage over time spells that they cast on things. Currently everything in their toolkit is just nukes and pets and cool utilities.
Very cool. So maybe that's a little bit outside of what people have been thinking, because I think there's an assumption that there's going to be lots of.
Maybe. I think that assumption, I mean, if I had to guess, because other than the like 1 or 2 poison skills in D2, I don't have personally a strong association with dot skills. Mm-hmm. I also think it's kind of just a conscious decision, like in ways to make the Necro and the Witch Doctor more different. The Witch Doctor is just oozing dots, so we didn't really want to like tread into that territory. Plus, we didn't need to. We've just got so much cool real estate that the Necro has at his disposal, like Corpse Explode and Bone Spear, stuff we showed at BlizzCon, stuff we're working on internally. Haven't found a need.
Part of this is probably a result of the decision to not bring poison forward. I think as soon as you say poison, you start immediately going into dot territory. And we kept that out and brought blood in. And with blood and bone being much more physically oriented, it's just not driven us as a team in the direction to want to make dotty things.
All right. Yeah. Let's see our next one.
All right, so that one was, I guess it makes sense, but it was also kind of interesting just in, it makes sense in terms of them wanting to keep the distinction between Witch Doctor and Necromancer very different. Because first thing when you think dots is like, oh, Jade set, right? Like Haunt and Pestilence. What's that skill called? I can't remember. The one that does the poison dots or whatever. But yeah, so they already have that covered within the Witch Doctor suite of skills. But even though there's, I guess blood to me kind of like I would think of, you know, there actually is an affix in the game where it's like you do bleed damage, kind of like rend, things like that with damage over time. So I would have thought there would have been some alley to push a little bit of dot type stuff. But I guess I can also see not wanting, again, to tread on WD territory. So making that distinction to not have it be a part of its skill set and just make it more about the, like, you know, balance between your health and doing damage and things like that.
Will you release more updates on the state of the pack's development, like how the female model will look and etc.? Thanks, Truk. I guess this is technically a question for me because I coordinate most of these things. So the short answer is yes, we want to release more updates, kind of keep you guys up to date on the Necromancer as it's developing. I don't have a full cadence, like I can't promise the next time we're going to be doing something, but we do have plans to you know, show you where we're going in development bit by bit, and so stay tuned. There will be more stuff for you to see in terms of the Necromancer as we go forward. All right, next one. Will Decrepify be a part of the Necromancer's arsenal? This came from Bishop.
Totally will. It was, in fact...
Come on. This you could literally go to the Necromancer page on the website and see that Decrepify is one of the skills that was in the BlizzCon demo. Kills me. And the one before, that Brandy was talking about, like, I guess that is to be assumed, right? Like, there will be a rollout of information. I guess I hope that we'll see stuff hopefully coming soon and hopefully at a steady pace, not just like, here's something and then they go away for like a month and a half and then here's something else. Hopefully it's like a nice, I don't know if we can expect it weekly, but maybe every 2 weeks or something just to get the hype train rolling. But Decrepify, we already knew that. Come on.
Part of the BlizzCon demo. When we started talking about curses, and necromancers, and started fleshing out like the starting skills, one of the ones we just were like, what is a cool curse that you just feel the second you cast it, it has impact and you get it. And Decrepify is the one we went to. It's really good. It's a massive snare. It also debuffs their damage. It's certainly not for everyone's playstyle, but like people in hardcore or like pushing really difficult greater rifts, it'll be great for. We're working on a lot of runes for skills right now, and Decrepify's got some really cool ones. A lot of utilitarian effects. So yeah, they'll be Decrepify.
All right, sounds great. Next one comes from Supreme. What will be the Necromancer's special form, like Wrath of the Berserker for the Barb or Archon for Wizard, etc.?
Well, we don't have any plans to do anything like that right now. It can be a bit of a trap to say that because all classes have a certain thing, that then this class has to have that thing. And that's just not the way we're approaching it. It's more like, well, what are the cool ideas that we want to have that are maybe long cooldown ideas? And I think if you look at the BlizzCon announcement, if you did catch that, Army of the Dead was a way more exciting version of a long cooldown power spell. Very different, obviously, because it's putting damage in an area versus buffing yourself. But it's more, I think what we're trying to do is look at what the themes are and what makes sense for the class and just follow that stuff naturally rather than looking at how other classes operate and saying, well, we've got to have that thing that fills that slot.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Witch Doctor actually doesn't have a super form either, unless you want to count Chicken.
Chicken is not a super form.
It's not really a super form,
right?
It's not a super form.
Yeah, he's got a ritual. That's probably his version of that. It's the closest. Yeah, so you can see
it's not a mandatory requirement of a class that they have this type of skill.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't generally take that approach. Like, we don't want to design to a checklist of things, because that would just make all our classes feel the same, right? Like, we don't go, all right, everyone needs to have a super form and a this and a that and a this other. Like, we just go, what's cool? Like, when I think Necromancer, what do I think? I think massive army, and I think cool golems and bone and blood and curses, corpse skills, blowing up corpses are awesome, and really just haven't found the need for anything like that for this class.
All right.
So that one was kind of, there's two ways you can take it. One is that it's kind of a bummer, just because even though not every class has one, like they mentioned the Witch Doctor, all it has is like turning into the chicken. It is kind of a bummer because, I don't know, it's cool to have a transformation. So many classes do have it. It kind of does feel like it's almost a staple of D3. I mean, it's not to say that they can't introduce something like that. Like the 6-piece of a set could be like your Necromancer transforms into a vampire and does like ridiculous damage for 30 seconds, on a cooldown or whatever. So they could work it in some way, but it sounds like they're not moving towards that. And so now the other flip side of it is that potentially opens up design space, because now they don't have like this understanding that you'll be in this form where you're just doing crazy, super buffed up damage or whatever. So maybe then they make the skills themselves hit harder in general, or they can design other cool things for like the long cooldown skills or whatever. So maybe that's the flip, the turning it positive side. But I guess at least the initial blow there is kind of like, damn, it seems like a missed opportunity for something cool to happen.
Here we go. Will it be a damage-only class, or will there be decent support options from Dashfeed?
So, I mean, we don't ever build a class going, this guy just supports other people being cool. Like, ideally, everyone is cool. But curses are very potent. I think that a lot of them will open up the opportunity to bring them along in really challenging content, or like maybe build some kind of cool supporty thing. He's certainly got some passives and some runes and some things that we've been developing that, like, I have to tell people internally, like, I know it's not super great in our solo easy play tests, but that thing's going to be really good if you're in a group or a co-op situation, or like a group hardcore environment. That'll be really cool. So yeah, he's certainly going to have things that are labeled support-like, but we're not building him to be a support character.
Other.
Yeah, I mean, he should do everything.
All right. Our next one comes from Jason.
It seems obvious, but I guess it's worth noting at least. I imagine that the Necro will find, I feel like players in general find ways to make classes support classes, and even just the fact that the Necromancer will have an entire like category of skills that scream support, because they have to support their pets too, right? If they're going to be like a pet class, then there will be skills that help the pets do things better. And if you just sub in pets for human characters, then you would assume those powers would transfer over to other humans that you're playing with in like your 4-player Greater Rifts or whatever. So there should be some really cool stuff, even if it's not like fully support, maybe like a hybrid of like, hey, you can contribute some damage, but you also bring these crazy awesome buffs. Then you might see that in Greater Rifts as well too. So there's definitely a lot of room there, I think, for the Necros to find a few different roles within the Greater Rifts.
Jason Bowen, I believe this one came from Facebook. Will the Necro come out on PS4 and Xbox One at the same time as PC?
Yes. Yeah, our intentions are to simulship. That's kind of been our MO for a while, for the last little while, is to come out with simulship as much as possible.
I think that's been the case for over a year now, actually.
Yeah, well, I remember the meeting where we like,
right, yeah,
on team,
we're gonna do this.
This
is the thing we're gonna do.
Simul shipping. So yeah, that's what we do from here on out.
All right.
That one was kind of obvious.
We kind of sort of answered this one a little bit. Will curses be coming to the Necromancer?
And they already kind of talked about this too.
Yes. Lots. There will be curses. Yes, curses.
Curses galore.
Yeah, well, yeah, we covered that one.
You already covered that one. Inadvertently.
Yes.
Alright. In the lore, will this be the same Necromancer from the Diablo 2 quests from Warrior Breed?
No. So we're not the lore folks on the team, so we'd love to be able to give you a lot more depth on exactly what's going on there, and it's just that we're not the people to really dispense that information. But we can say definitively that they're not
the same person.
No.
It'd be kind of difficult with the two.
Well,
you have options,
going
right?
from the 1 to the 2.
From the 1 to the 2, it's like
that's a different kind of necromancer skill than one that we've encountered.
Although I've got an idea now.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Alright, our next one. So this question, it was pretty interesting. Will the Necromancer have a comprehensive pet command interface? We know that pets are handled very differently for the Necromancer, so is the interface going to be any different?
No, not at all. So you certainly have the ability, and one of the things we wanted to do to differentiate the Witch Doctor and the Necro, and to reinforce this idea of being the commander of the dead, was to give you more direct control over your minions and your pets. We've sort of been expressing that by making a lot of the pet skills very active, passive oriented, where equipping the skill will give you the pets in many cases, and then activating the skill will in some way, shape, or form direct your pet's attention. So in the case of the stuff we showed at BlizzCon, Command Skeleton, if you have it on your bar, skeletons, you have skeletons, that's a thing. And then if you activate the ability for a cost, you can tell your pets, like, go murder that guy. And they will go murder that guy. And then the golems that we've been developing are similar. Like when the skill is on your bar, you have a golem. And then the different golems, depending on which golem you're using, when you activate the ability, they'll go to the location that you commanded them to and do some cool thing. So we're not developing like a new UI. You're not going to be like micromanaging some subset of buttons. You just have these abilities that also will let you control your pets.
Alrighty then.
So this is cool. We kind of already knew it just based on the demo at BlizzCon and what they were talking about in some of the different panels. But yeah, so the pets themselves are going to be active passives in the same way you see like with mantras right now or laws for the Crusader. They do something passively, which is just like be summoned and attack, or just do whatever they do. But when you activate them, they will literally, like, whatever your cursor is on, like if your cursor is on the Greater Rift Guardian and you activate the pet skill, they zoom right over to whatever you are currently targeting. So that's really great because it's super control of the pets, which is like one of the main things witch doctors are super bummed about right now, is they just have no control over the pets. So this is actually for everyone that wants really smart pets. This is going to be a cool thing, and they can do more with it too, kind of like what Travis was alluding to there at the end. It doesn't have to just be move there and attack, but also move there and CC for 5 seconds, or move there and get a damage buff, and also like do a AoE pull, like a cyclone strike when you arrive at that location. So they can do like crazy stuff with the activations, which would make you want to press your buttons more often than just standing there passively while your pets kill everything. So I'm excited for that aspect of the the redesigned pets for necromancers?
Here's an interesting question. This one came from Loranis on the forums. Will the Necromancer be part of Reaper of Souls, or is it new DLC? So,
Who's answering that one?
Yeah,
I mean, I can.
you
How
should
about
answer
you
that.
do know the
You
answer?
do it.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
answer this one. So, this is actually covered in the FAQ that we have on the Necromancer that's on the front page of the website right now.
Mhm.
But the Rise of the Necromancer pack is a separate standalone pack. It's not an expansion, but it does stand on its own, and it is purchasable content. As far as we know right now, it will require Reaper of Souls in order to access the Necromancer. And that's kind of all the information that we have at this moment. Or at least that I've been informed of at this moment.
That is a way deeper and more complete answer than what I would have given. So
That's
correct.
exactly what's in our
Yes.
FAQ.
All
So
Excellent.
Mhm.
I'm glad you know that.
yes. I wrote it, so I hope I
Oh,
would.
well, okay.
I hope
This
I
is
would know
rigged.
it.
She put that in there for herself.
I just want to be involved. All right. Next one comes.
So that's just one quick thing there. That was something that we actually were wondering was, could somebody who has not expanded their game to Reaper of Souls actually purchase the Necromancer and then like only play it up to level 60 and like not have access to sets and things? Like how weird would that interaction be? But I guess that kind of settles it that you will need at the very least to expand to Reaper of Souls. So I guess if you haven't yet, look for one of those sales whenever Reaper is being half off or whatever the cost, and grab that because it sounds like you'll need it to get the Necromancer.
This is from Shadow Dragon on our forums. Do you anticipate that the Necromancer will be part of the group meta?
How can they know that from now?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely hope so. I think there's a lot of room for a lot of different classes. I think the Necro has a lot of really unique mechanics, and I think that curses certainly are a area where when I think of the kind of group dynamics that usually form for the high-end meta grift pushing, there's usually like the guy who's doing the really support-like thing. And Necro's curses are really powerful, and they help the whole group, so hopefully, yeah, I hope so.
I mean, at the same time, it sounds like they've got, because they have this whole Commander of the Undead thing going, and also lots of just direct damage, they could flip that role too and be one of the main damage dealers in the group too.
Yes,
so.
absolutely. Well, let's hope.
Let's hope, right. So we're hoping that the case is that they can kind of, fluctuate from what role they have.
The goal with Necromancer is that you can build him or her, in multiple different ways, and they're all viable. So if you want to try being more sporty, you got really good skills for that. If you just want to murder things, you got skills for that. If you want your pets to tie up the mobs, you can have 1 million pets. Not actually 1 million, don't quote me. Server engineers will come find me. But yeah, I mean, they should certainly be a part of the Griff meta.
All right.
That's such a weird question though, because like we in a way determine that, we the players, and of course whatever power level the Necro comes out at will also determine if it's part of the meta. But how can they know that from now? Because they're still designing the skills. Like who knows if they actually have numbers themselves attached to it yet and stuff. So that's an odd one. But I would assume, based on what we've been kind of discussing on the stream for the last couple of days and weeks, it's likely going to come out strong. Unless they try to find an actual balance for the Necro, my guess is it's going to come out stronger than most of the other classes, because you have to buy this thing, right? So they have to entice you for a reason to buy it. And if it comes out and it's like hella weak, then one of your friends is going to get it and be like, dude, Necro sucks. Like I can't kill anything above like greater 50. And then guess what? The 3 people that listen to that friend aren't going to buy it. And that'll spread. So I think they're going to have it more on the side of like, yo, I got the Necromancer. I did Greater Riff 100 instantly. Like, of course, I'm being hyperbolic, but I did Greater Riff like 100, dude. This thing is sick. And then everyone's gonna be like, oh, I got to get it. So my guess is it's going to come out like hot and heavy. Guns blazing. Necros shooting things.
Our next one. This one came from Scaleless, and this one actually came up a surprising amount of time from multiple regions.
We already
Will
knew
Necromancer
this, too,
have its own set
by the way.
dungeons?
Yeah, for sure. We plan on having 4 sets. There should be a set dungeon for each set. Yeah. That's pretty direct. Pretty simple question.
Sounds good. Our next one comes from Culleton. Will there be lifesteal skills, and will they work to heal group members? It's kind of a 2-part question, so.
We have, since blood is a very strong theme on the class now, a lot of the blood skills currently are set up to cost health in addition to the essence cost. Part of making that work is also giving the class enough tools to be able to compensate for the fact that he's now spending health sometimes, depending on your build. So he certainly has a lot of recoup healing mechanics built in. Additionally, some of those will also benefit your group, yeah.
All right. I look forward to seeing how that works, especially
I
if
do
you're
too,
playing.
yeah. Hopefully well.
Hopefully well. All right. And it looks like we've been very efficient.
That also leans more towards support as well too, right? Like he said something about group healing skills. My guess is that, we were just talking in chat about the Enforcer gem and whether that will actually work with Necromancer. My guess is that it will. So you'll probably have some pets that are just super resilient because of that gem. But also, assume you get up into like high levels of greater rifts and your pets are taking crazy damage. Like hopefully there would be some sort of skill or way to support your pets that actually heals them back up or whatever. And again, like I've been saying, substitute pets for other characters. And now you'll be able to do some healing. Like maybe you won't need a support monk anymore because the Necromancer will actually be this almost like pseudo healing class. I could imagine again like some passive that, because he's spending his life to do things, like he has to heal that back up rather quickly, or even like the pets are taking tons of damage, so you put like shields on them or healing or heal over time effects or something like that. Like I could actually see a lot of that going down, and that totally supports support as a viable option for Necro. So I would, between that and the curses and stuff, man, I'm thinking we'll see some support Necro. It seems like it'll be viable.
So this is actually our last question that we
Okay.
have. So we've gone through 32 questions already. That kind of flew by. I'm
That
surprised.
did. I
Wow.
thought we were gonna.
I
Yeah.
thought we were going to take longer.
I tend to
Like,
ramble, so I just assumed like.
yeah, we did have some very straightforward things as well. So maybe we can talk a little bit more philosophy after this.
Sure. Yeah.
And,
we can do that. Absolutely.
All right. So the next question that we have: will the lidless wall become a necromancer item? And it's sort of a two-part question. So we'll get back to the other part in a second.
Well, maybe. We haven't decided yet.
Right.
There's still a lot of the itemization. Itemization stuff is typically done a little bit later in the process, and after we've got like all of the skills and runes and everything worked out, that's where you start to get a sense of what the different play styles are that are really emerging, the things that people gravitate to, and then we start taking we know how many items we want to make, but then we start to have to do the work of figuring out what those items are going to do and what they're all going to be. And so there's a potential for it because we haven't made the decision yet, but it's up in the air.
All right. I'll pop this back up just so that we can remind everybody what the secondary part of the question was. But are there any other armors, weapons, and shields that look like they would just be downright perfect for the Necromancer? Thanks, Sith Lord Yoda, by the way, for the questions.
Yeah, I mean, all the new art that we're making for the Necromancer. The new sets are going to be really cool. I've seen all the concept and a lot of the stuff that the guys are doing. And then we're just making a lot of new armor that just looks like a Necro. So I don't know how much of the existing stuff would be reused or converted into. I don't know if we're going to take that shield and turn it into a Necro item. Maybe, we'll see. Right now we're just really focusing on, fleshing out the entire class, all the skills, passives, runes. And once we've got that in a good place, then we're going to start on, all right, now what are the legendaries, what do the sets do, etc. So really until we get to making the items and coming up with the ideas, I don't know. Maybe it's a cool looking item, but at the same time he could just use it. I don't know, we'll see.
All right. Well, I don't have any more players submitting questions.
The only thing I'll take away from that, because it's kind of speaks for itself. Of course, they're making new looks and armor and assets and stuff for the Necromancer. But the only thing that would be crazy if they took the lidless wall away is, what are the lawn bombardment crusaders gonna do? I guess it would be almost like a swampland waiters kind of thing, like how the monk still uses it in its build, even though it's completely a witch doctor item. If it becomes a necro item, will we still try and find it for the Crusaders so that we get that physical % element? I don't know. Just random musings from a Crusader. But they have so that was it for the questions that they pulled, and then the end here is just some general questions about the process of what they've been working on and some of the hardships and whatnot. So
There's a couple of questions that I can ask that I think maybe players would find some interesting insight.
Okay.
Towards. All right. So one of the things that I'd like to know, out of this, has there been any huge particular challenges that you guys have faced as you've been diving into the Necro? I see you both smiling and laughing, so I think this might be a good question, or one you have an answer to.
Do you want to?
We can probably each pick.
Yeah,
Okay.
go.
Yeah, from different perspectives, right?
We've kind of spilled the beans on Revive.
Yeah.
That's coming, right?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about Revive. Our game actually has, on the data side, over 1,000 individual monsters in it. And in terms of unique pieces of art, it's something more like above 100, 120, 130, somewhere in that neighborhood. And Revive will be a skill, and it will have 5 runes, so there will be 6 versions of it. So you can do the simple math on that. It's 1,000 plus times 6 pieces of unique art that need to be created in order for this one skill to be made.
This is crazy.
By far, without any competition or question of competition, will be the most lavishly expensive skill made in Diablo to date, and that's including all the things that we tried throughout all of the development process that we threw away and everything. Yeah, this is the king of skills. But why would we do that? Why would we do that? And it's well,
it's awesome.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
right. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? We want the Necromancer
Yeah.
to be awesome.
Well, it was sort of like one of those things when we first talked about bringing him back. It was like, well, could we do it without Revive? Because we know what that means. And the answer just was no. I think it's a must-have. And then we thought, well, we could also just try it out without doing all the work and see how exciting it actually is in Diablo 3. And what we've kind of found is it's amazing. It is so good. It's a Zoomancer's dream as a skill, and but it's a huge challenge.
Right. I imagine.
Yeah.
That's a lot of floor work to cover.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, Revive is it's certainly the biggest one.
Oh, like the way they talk about Revive, I really want to know more about that skill. It sounds like it's going to be super OP for the Necro. Like it sounds like it's one of the marquee skills that'll be up there. So they're saying 1,000 different monsters times 6 for all the different runes of Revive. So that means to me that based on what you revive, there should be some sort of reason why you would have to denote it as different, right? Unless it's just for the flavor of you revived a fallen, you revived a zombie, you revived a Punisher, so it has to look like that. But I wonder if they're actually gonna still have the same damage output of what they do when they're attacking you, or will their damage be tied to the skill itself, or will they have the same, is it literally just going to be you take them on your side and they just go to town? Revive sounds crazy. I don't know, it sounds like it's going to be hella sick.
The one that probably has taken the longest to try to figure out, I think, was corpses. Just
right.
How do they work?
Mm-hmm.
Question one, the Q&A, even someone asked the same thing. What happens when the corpse isn't? Yeah, that's a good point. How do you have corpse? You can't have a necro without corpse explosion, and you can't have corpse explosion without corpses, and we don't usually have those in D3. So how do we make this work?
Right.
And that's been a long process. I mean, I'm really happy with where we ended up. I think we iterated our way to a really great place. It was certainly challenging at the start. We had a lot of experiments with trying to figure out even how we adapt corpse skills to D3. In D2, everything kill leaves a corpse. You mouse over the corpse, you push a button, a thing happens. And what we had found was just for the pacing of our game, you would just be spamming the corpse button corpse explode 100 times, and it caused these problems with the ebb and flow of gameplay. You weren't building as much as we wanted, you weren't spending as often as we wanted, because you were spending so much time blowing up corpses. So that sort of led us to going all right, well, what if we just change how these interact with the corpses in general? You just make more corpses in D3. So what if we just make all of the corpse skills kind of AE-ish in a way? Corpse explosion will blow up all the corpses in an area. Some of the other corpse skills just don't care where the corpses are, just deals with it for you. And then even just what do they look like? What does a corpse look like in D3? And that one was fun for Julian and the tech art guys. I mean, you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, so you have that problem of, well, if the guy died, what is it that gets left behind, and
Right.
then there's the problem of identifying it. Like you have to know that means you can use a corpse skill. There's a lot going on in Diablo 3. The pace of combat of Diablo 3 is so much higher than Diablo 2. And it's a 3D rendered game. With Diablo 2, it's sprites. You can cheat visibility issues in a game like that very easily, without getting into technicals. But you can't do in a 3D game because things actually take up a physical space. Like when things are in front of each other, they are physically in front of each other. And when you start messing with that, the visuals break down really fast. So we had to try a lot of crazy things just to try to get it to a place where you would know when it was time to use a corpse skill,
Right.
and deal with that effectively with everything else that's going on. Yeah.
And I mean, like, Diablo 3 is a very frenetic game when it comes to the gameplay. So, like, recognizability, I know, was one of the things that we kind of had to focus on. Because
Yes.
otherwise, like a Mallet Lord would be a totally different corpse from, like, a Lacuni, right?
Right. Yeah.
So this is where we settled on. By the way, some of these problems weren't answerable with art. Sometimes the answer is to change the way the mechanics work. So settling on the idea that there was a universal corpse was one of the first kind of master strokes that will, like, okay, now we don't have to build a unique piece of art for every monster. And then relaxing the way a lot of the skills work so that you're not interested in picking one corpse out over another. We made them less precious to you as a player. Like, this one I gotta save it, I gotta use just this one just the right way. So we kind of just loosened a lot of the gameplay constraints there, which made the players relax around wanting to know exactly where every corpse was at all times.
Yeah.
And that eased the burden of the art for us and let us go back to making something that was a little simpler, a little easier.
All right. I have one more corpse-related question, and the only reason I bring this up is I think I saw it on Reddit somewhere. And this was feedback from the BlizzCon build. Was if you're building your Necromancer around using these corpse-based skills, and you get to the Rift Guardian, and they don't have minions, what do you do? Because you're gonna run out of corpses.
You die.
So what do you do? Like, is there a way to reconcile that?
There will be ways to reconcile that probably would force us maybe to announce things that we're not ready.
We don't
to
have
talk
to
about.
announce anything, but like, but it's
there will
something
be
we're
ways.
thinking about,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. This has come up a lot in gameplay tests, which people will say, "Hey, this is great when I've got lots of monsters," and in this one particular case or another, I didn't feel like I had all the tools, and so we're keeping that in mind, and we've got plans for that.
All right. Is there anything that's come across in the Necromancer?
So that was a lot on corpses, basically, and corpse explosion to some degree. It's kind of cool that they'll be more AoE oriented. It sounds like you don't need to precisely select which corpse is the one for you or the one that you're going to use at that time. So it seems like it'll feed into the way that we kind of play D3 right now, which is like a very fast paced, like there isn't time to select, like the only time it really slows down is when you're in really high level content. So I'm sure there'll be something towards, figuring out like, oh, I need to kill all these small mobs and then bring over an elite and then pop all my corpses there or something like that. But it's kind of, I'll be curious to see how it plays out, if it feels good based on not necessarily needing to control exactly when you pop something, or like the fact that hitting the skill once is going to destroy like multiple corpses at the same time, or interact with multiple corpses at the same time. As for the last part, I remember we were even talking about it at BlizzCon, just the fact that, what happens in single target situations when there are no ads and you aren't getting corpses. I could easily see it being solved with either a passive that just like randomly generates a corpse every like second or something like that so that you can activate it against a guardian, or if there's even like a legendary power on, a scythe or something that does something similar, or even the corpse explosion set, if that becomes a thing, could also circumvent that. Or maybe like there's a piece on the skill, or sorry, a 2-piece set bonus or something like that. Like every time you use an essence generator, it creates a corpse or something. So there's like tons of ways that they can get around that issue. But let's continue forward.
Answer so far that it just hit that switch in your mind where you're just like, I can't wait to finish developing this one thing. Like, what is? Is there anything that's standing out for you that you can talk about?
You won't let me talk about
Oh,
anything.
I'm not allowed to let you.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's not her fault. Honestly, I was just really excited when we finally said, we're going to do the Necromancer. Because we had, like, for the last, I don't even know how long, we've always had, like, team brainstorms and, like, what do people want to work on? Let's talk about it with the team. And every single time I'd be like, Necromancer. I want to make Necromancer. Can I make the Necromancer? So when the team finally said, like, we're going to make the Necromancer, like, dibs. Like, I want to do it. I want to do Necromancer. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very cool trying to take the, like, really awesome iconic stuff that I used to love myself and try to reimagine it. Because even when I think about, like, the D2 Necro and what that gameplay actually was and what that experience was like Blood Golem and Iron Maiden just being like, lol, I'm invincible. Or, like, how did Corpse Explode work? Or reimagining, like, the Skeleton Army. So, like, trying to take a lot of the really bad problems. Because I remember my first Necromancer in D2, I probably built the way most people would build a Necromancer, which is like, dude, skeletons are awesome. I'm going to make a ton of skeletons. I'm like, this game's easy. Yeah! And then I got to, like, Nightmare, and the first monster that cast an AE spell killed all my skeletons. And I was like, well, I don't have 30 corpses to make 30 more skeletons. I guess I lose. Time to recreate my guy. So,
right.
Like, trying to take a lot of those problems that the character had and sort of adapt them to the game we have, while also differentiating it from the existing classes, and making sure he just has a lot of really unique things that aren't the same as other characters. It's just, the whole experience has been a ton of fun. I'm really excited to get it out to the audience and hear what people think when we're done.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, you know, like, I remember when we decided, I think I was about to go on vacation. So it was like the day before I'm going on vacation, and we're like, yes, we're doing it. And I remember saying, I would like to be involved in that. I would like to run the team. I would like to be all over
please.
that. And I left, and I thought, I wonder if everybody really heard me. I wonder if I really got my point across. So I immediately started sending emails
on vacation
while I'm on vacation, like, in case I didn't make it absolutely clear how much I want to work on this. And then somebody didn't email me back. I'm like, uh-oh.
Did someone else
Maybe
grab it from me?
did they not get the email? Because I'm not getting it. So, like, so I'm flooding people with emails from just, like, I want in. I mean, that shows you some, like, the excitement level. And I think that the whole team shares it. And, everything that we're doing is really kind of amazing. I'm biased. I'm a Necro fan. I played a lot of it. It's probably going to maybe be the best one. Like,
right?
I'm not supposed to have favorites. I'm
Right.
not. But
No, it's totally okay to have favorites.
but I'm having a favorite.
You're like, I got my favorites.
This
For
is
sure.
good. For sure.
Sure.
I love it. But if I had to pick a specific thing though that I'm excited about, we have kind of doubled down a little bit on the golems and decided that there's a lot of, like, obviously you heard about Revive. It's a marquee skill. We're spending a lot of effort, but we're also spending a lot of particular thematic art and presentation effort around the golems and trying to make sure that they are also, like, a really big highlight point. And so I think you saw a little bit of that in the Blood Golem announcement, and when we have the other golems to announce, I think you're going to see that reflected in them as well.
That'd be cool. Maybe I can work with you when we get closer. We'll do, like, a golem blog or something.
Golem blog?
Yeah.
That sounds like
My precious.
like a design of some golem blog.
Could I just write it in Golem's voice as well?
Just
to,
don't
like,
do that. Just no.
It's full tilt.
No.
No. Veto that one. Fair
I mean, you can do it.
I'll do it in my spare time.
Keep it away from me.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have today. Unless there's anything else you guys want to toss in real quick before we get going.
I just, we're excited. We hope you're excited, and we can't wait to announce
Some
legitimately new stuff and that we can show you.
We can't wait either.
Get it out so that you can play it.
I'm just really looking forward to everyone getting their chance to get hands on it. I mean, so far, everyone that we've had in the company come check it out has had, like, really good feedback. Like, this is super fun. Like, all right, we're not sucking. Like, go us. And I think it's really cool. Like, I really hope you guys like the way that we have adapted the Diablo 2 Necromancer to Diablo 3. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty rad as well. So, We're getting there. In the meantime, thank you guys for joining us today. Like, we super appreciate it. I also want to thank you guys for joining me today and taking the time out of your busy schedules working on the Necro to talk about it.
No, I love talking to the community and interacting. I love telling you guys what we're doing. If we would do this more, but then we wouldn't be able to finish it in time to like get it to y'all without you lynching us. So we're gonna do less of this and more making the character. But it's been really exciting. Yeah.
Wherever we can squeeze one in.
No, I love doing this stuff. Totally
Absolutely.
love it.
No, it's been great.
Yeah. All right. Well, very cool. We're going to go ahead and sign off for now. For those of you who tuned in late or missed it, I will be going ahead and putting this video up on YouTube and also on Twitch VOD. So if you want to go and catch up with anything you missed, you'll be able to see it on those two channels. So that would be youtube.com/Diablo and twitch.tv/Diablo. And you'll also be able to review the VOD right here on Facebook. So anything you missed, as soon as this broadcast goes down, it'll be available to watch again. So in the meantime, good luck and have fun. And we wish you all the best loot in Season 9 and beyond. And we'll have more to share soon. So
TM.
bye, guys. See you later.
Soon TM. Alright, so that was the end of it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, so for the most part, a lot of stuff that we kind of already knew. A couple of tidbits in terms of like the force sets thing, that's huge. Using blood/health HP as a resource, that's something that we guessed but didn't exactly know for sure. No thorns Necro. Pets are going to be pets, corpses are going to be corpses. That's pretty much it. So hopefully more detailed stuff will be coming soon. I think that maybe this is just like the first touch of more renewed hype for Necro. This is the first thing that they've done for it in 2017. Maybe they're just like getting everyone reacquainted or whatever. And we'll start to see some really actually juicy things soon. Fingers crossed, maybe. But yeah, that's it.